So you have an 18-year-old kid, unsupervised, transferring from Virginia to Georgia, not knowing a soul, transcripts, but I was a big boy. And the motivation was I wasn't going home so my dad so he could tell me that he was right. That was my motivation. There was no way I was going home. So we made the transition, and I had the dream to play football in the NFL. Should have got the clue that if you're playing Division II, your likelihood of going to the NFL was not too good. But I didn't, because I was an optimistic kid, you know. I fought the good fight. So, but anyways, that came to a reality, and then I realized that I pretty much went to college to chase girls and play football. That became evident because I realized my 4 years of eligibility was done, and I still had about 2 years left of school. So I figured, well, I guess I'm going to be a coach and a teacher, and that's what I'm going to do. I love kids, had no problem with that. I thought I could motivate them, and I love football, so I figured perfect blend. But I didn't like school, so when I stopped going to class, that was an indication that that wasn't going to work out either. So I dropped out of college, and this is where it got tough. So I dropped out of college, and I start working at Lowe's distribution plant in Villa Rica, Georgia. 18 years old, working on the graveyard shift on the shipping and receiving dock, loading trucks 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. While all my buddies were partying, having a good time, Louie was loading trucks. Barely making it, you know. But that's what I did. Eventually got a second job, waiting tables at Chili's. So I'm working 2 jobs. And I'm telling you, I was almost broke. I don't mean broke physically like in my pocket. There weren't many pockets there, but I was like mentally broke. And I just hung on to the fact that I felt like, you know, all things work together for good. All things work together for good. All things work together for good. That's what I kept telling myself. So fortunately, I met some guy in the car business, and I could get into more of the car business and how I got to where I'm at, and that's part of a pretty phenomenal story, a track record of how that happened. But I got into the car business at 20 years old and took the same principles that I applied playing football in the football field and took them to work. I saw there was lazy people. I saw there was an opportunity. I saw that basically I could outwork anybody. And I realized that talent is God-given, but skill is developed. So I knew that then. I knew that I didn't have the God-given talent maybe to play on the field at that level, but I knew I could develop my skills. So I went to work. And I got obsessive about the car business and went to work and was very fortunate. So I kind of share that with you because I think it's important that a lot of times we want to look at our environment. You know, you take it to soccer. I'm not a big soccer guy, I'm more a football guy, but you know, I know sometimes you hear coaches yelling at you, find open space, right? Find the open space, right? It's cluttered. Get out of the way. Get moving, right? That's that environment I'm talking about. And in school, you're going to have those same environments. You got to find open space. You can't be in the environments that are going to pull you back. And only you can make that choice. There's only one thing that God gave you complete control over in your whole life. There's only one thing He gave you 100% total control over, and that's your mind. You can choose to think and do whatever you want based on your thoughts. That's it. He didn't give you control of the weather, your teachers, your mom, the school system, anything else. So it's something you always got to remember. I had a couple of things that I thought were important. I don't know how I am on time. I want to give you just a quick thing, and I'm going to kind of wrap this up. I want to leave you with a couple of points. A secret to life. A secret to life. And I encourage all of you guys, just for your purposes, I'm finishing a book. I've got a lot of stuff in the book that's mind-blowing to most people. A lot more details than what I'm giving tonight, but there's principles in there that will help you do things that's unimaginable. But one of the secrets that I'll share with you, I think is really important, is you always work harder on yourself than you do on anything else. So if you're working, you work harder on yourself than you do on your job. If you're married, you work harder on yourself than you do on your marriage. The fact of the matter is, when you work on yourself, you take self-responsibility, and if you're the best you possibly can be, everything else will take care of itself. You have to grow yourself. I had a scenario with my wife, honestly. I don't mind sharing this with you. She was 15 years, married, kids, life is good, everything's rolling along, Louie's being Louie, Sandy's being Sandy. And she got to a point where she felt like success is more important than anything. Meanwhile, in my world, and this is so funny to the young folks because you really don't know what you don't know yet. Like marriage is like, you just don't know until you get there. Let me just tell you. Love is a choice. Love is not a feeling. You got to choose to love somebody. And that's truthful. But I'll tell you, she got to a point basically where she was worn out, where she felt like, you know, all my pie in the sky, optimism, things I want to do, whatever. She was in somewhere left behind. And I look and I'm thinking to myself, you got everything in the world. You must got a problem. I mean, what else would you want? In my mind. Took me 2 or 3 days to figure that out. And then I looked at a book that we had at the house, read this book. And I realized, you know what? I got to work harder on myself, and I do the marriage. Made some changes, made some corrections. Since that point, completely different scenario. That's another tip that you have to understand in being successful in any area. Who has the information you need to get what you want and get where you need to go, but you don't have that information? Somebody's got the information you need to get to where you want to go. It's your responsibility to get the information. You live in America. We got the sweetest land on earth. You have people come from all over the place to this place that everybody's crying, whining, and making excuses about. Don't get me wrong, it's tough out there. But the fact of the matter is, people come from China and India and Jamaica to come here. They stack up 8 deep in a house to come here to do work, to have an opportunity. They have books here that we can read, buy a book for 20 bucks, and you can get the world of information like that and change the course. You got to get that information. That's a huge, huge piece. So anyways, I want to tell you again, leave you with a couple of things. I mean, success in life is not something you shoot for. It's something you attract by being an attractive person. And I'm not talking about looks. Being successful is something you attract. Some qualities. I'll give you 4 of them, and then I'm going to be done. If I ask you, what's 3 times 3? What's the answer? 9. You got that, right? If I said, what's 3186 times 4122? What's the answer? Don't know it, do you? But here's the deal. If I gave you a pen and paper, could you figure it out? You can figure it out, right? Because you got the formula, right? You know the formula. And so that's the thing about life. You got to know the formula. Once you know the formula, it doesn't matter how big the number is. You still can make it work for you. There's 4 things I want to tell you that I think are important. The first one is definite purpose. Right now, it's too young for you guys to have that definite purpose, but there'll come a time in your life where there'll be something that will resonate with you, and they always speak of 3 areas of life, and that's survival, success, and significance. There'll come a time where you don't want to survive. That ain't a good place. I've been there. All right, you don't want to just survive. And it's really success you never really get. It's like chasing the wind. You never put your arms around it. It's never good enough. The sweet spot is significance, and without a purpose, it's hard to get that. The other thing is you got to be a goal-driven person. Goals create habits. And I know you guys hear that in the sports world, and we talk about goals all the time, but I'm talking about an avid goal person. At 18 years old, for whatever reason, I don't know where I read it from, but I had a list of goals. Okay? I can share with you, I'm 38 years old, and I'm sharing with you because I care about you. I think it's important. But I carry these goals. I'm 38, and I still have goals written down. It's important. I would encourage you to take it to the next level. And again, this is outside the box and outside thinking. And most people think I'm pretty unreasonable. They really do. But to each his own. I would take the goals you write down, I'd put them on a CD, and I'd play them to yourself. Because really, the self-talk that you say to yourself is what determines where you're going to go. Some of you in here, I hate to say it, but if you had a friend that talked to you the way you talk to yourself, you wouldn't have him as a friend very long. Sometimes you look and you say things to yourself, I can't do this, I'm stupid, I don't do this, I didn't know, whatever the case may be. Very, very important. So what you tell yourself is extremely important. Without goals, guys, you're not going to be able to put yourself in position to win. The next thing is be yourself. Be passionately you. You make a better you than a poor somebody else. You got to be you. I struggle with that in business sometimes. Not anymore, because I know who I am, but it's taken me 38 years. My faith's important to me. Influencing people is important to me. And when you figure out what's important to you and be you at the highest level you can possibly be, then you have no fears. You go for what you know and you do what you got to do. The last thing is develop your skills. We talked about that before, right? Talents God-given, skills developed. You got to develop your skills. So the soccer team, what you get, the girls has got, 8 players returning? 8 players returning, right? The boys have got, 5? Something like that? All right. So here's the deal. So here's the deal. So we just lost on Tuesday. If you label it a loss, you lost. Hopefully you're digging deep and you're figuring out what you won out of the game. Because there were some victories in the game. You got to find them though. But what's more exciting is, in adversity, in anything that you have left, you have an opportunity now, the 8 girls, the 5 boys, start doing some leadership, start figuring out, showing up in the summertime, doing some things that most teams aren't going to do, and you start to determine what it's going to take to get back to where you were and finish the race. That's the goal. You want to finish the race. You want to finish what you started. That should be an avid goal, and you guys hopefully will eat, sleep, and drink that because there's a lot of talent from what I understand in the room. So, close with this. Story of the bamboo tree. Chinese bamboo tree. Every day has to be watered and fertilized. According to National Geographic, it's a very hard nut that gets buried to the ground. It needs to be constantly watered and fertilized for 5 years straight before it ever breaks the ground. Check this out. You've literally got to water this thing 5 years straight before it ever breaks the ground. If at any time the process stops in 5 years, the bamboo tree will die. Now, once it breaks through in the 5th year, then it takes 6 weeks to grow 90 feet tall. So the question is, does it grow 90 feet in 5 years or 90 feet in 6 weeks? That's right. 5 years. It takes 5 years. So I leave you with this. At the end of the day, you got to grow it, you got to nurture it, you got to build a foundation, you got to feed it. Your school system, you got to feed your grades, you got to feed the work ethic, you got to feed the gym, you got to feed the weight room, you got to feed eating the right things. When you get past this and you get into college, it doesn't change. When you get married, you got to feed it. You got to nurture your bride, you got to nurture your husband, you got to nurture the kids. It never stops. The principles never change. So remember, the growth takes place in that 5 years. You can't stop once you get started. I appreciate the opportunity, and hopefully we'll see some awards and who's going to take home some prizes and who's going to live with the highlights. Somebody.